Hey everyone, Mr. Mom Collectibles, and I am back with another Hot Toys 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review. And today we're going to be taking a look at this guy. This is the Amazing Spider-Man CMS015. So excited to check this out. I just got this figure in actually today, so I'm getting the unboxing going for you guys. But before I get started on this, I want to give a huge shout out to Jeremy Casa over at Plastic Hero Collectibles. Without him, this unboxing, this video, I couldn't do it without you. So I really do appreciate it. I'm gonna link his Facebook group in the description to this video. Go on over there, check it out, give it a follow while you're at it. Jeremy's really great. You could order, Hot Toys, in art, third party. You could do day one, or you could do regular pre-ordering, second batch if you want to save some money. In terms of getting exclusives like this, no problem. That's his forte. And on top of that, grails as well. And to give you guys kind of an idea of how well that process works, this figure right there, the Obi-Wan Kenobi from A New Hope, that's a figure that was on my list of this year to get, and I was able to secure that with Jeremy for a great price. But before concluding that transaction, I had some concerns about some of the known things with the figure, and he sent me a bunch of photos going over all the details. We had a nice conversation about it and made me feel really at ease at buying that figure. So if you're looking for any grails or anything older and you're not sure where to turn and you don't want to go to eBay, Mercari, Jeremy's a great person to reach out to. He's also great to have a conversation with, knows a lot about the figures, about the hobby, so he can really guide you in the right direction. So without further ado, let's jump into this unboxing. All right, guys, so this is the figure here. As you can see, I really love the artwork on this figure. It really brings me back to that Amazing Fantasy first appearance of Spider-Man. Has a nice artistic look here. You see the Hot Toys exclusive. It just gives you a nice comic book feel. That's what they're going for here. So this is something, and those who know me, I usually get rid of my packaging, but I can assure you this one's staying with me. And when you actually remove the box, there is the slip art of the figure itself. You can see it's the actual photo of the figure. Really nice pose there with the camera accessory, which I'm really excited about taking a look at for you guys. There you go, the Spider-Man information there at the bottom. And you remove this, and we have the figure itself. Very standard. If you've gotten Spider-Man figures before, the window dressing, everything like that's gonna be pretty much the same. You have a tray up here on top with all the accessories and the hands and everything. You have the eyes here, the camera, the webs, the figure itself, and then underneath, when we actually take this out, you also have underneath, which is the backdrop information and the setup for that, which we'll take a look at that in a few moments. But I want to lay all this stuff out so you guys can take a look. We're going to go through it a little bit at a time, and I want to start with the accessories, which are the hands. So here are the hands themselves. If you look at this, they're actually much more animated, and you can see that the webbing on there, the web pattern is definitely different, and actually the hands themselves look a little bit more embellished, if that makes any sense. You can see the curvature of the fingers there, much more accentuated. I guess that's a nice word to compare to, compared to other Spider-Man figures. It does have like a little more of a comic book style to it, how overemphasized the hand gestures are. But like I said, you have various gestures here for the Spider-Man figure. Even if like a figure like this, you can see the knuckles are very much more emphasized to give a more like a comic book look. You see here the knuckles there, and the webbing is very much raised on these. So it's very prominent, which I really like a lot about these. But you get an assortment of hands here, plus you have two alternate web shooter styles. So you have this version here, which shoots out of his wrist, and then you have the old metal web shooters, which reminds me of sometimes in the comic books, in the old comics, he did wear these, and also reminds me of the 70s comic book, the 70s TV show, where he wore the external web shooters on his hands, which is pretty neat. So a nice little callback there. And then you also get this hand here, which actually has the webbing tied around it if you want to use the webbing effect. And another thing I noticed on this is the webbing is definitely more prominent, white, versus other webbings that seem to be a little bit off. So that's something that kind of caught my eye in terms of the paint application there. But I really do love the animated gestures to it. And like I said, you can tell that there's definitely some emphasis. Just got to keep that whole comic book style in the back of your head when you're looking at this stuff. Because like I said, the hands look gestured, the knuckles, the outline, everything like that. It really gives you the feel of a comic book style figure. So like I said, an assortment of hands, two different sets of web shooters. So a lot of options to play with when it comes to posing and things. And here are the stock eyes that come with the figure. Now the figure already comes with the metallic ones, which are not to say the controversial ones, but they're the first look version that everyone saw. And then it came with these two, completely white, And then you have these different gestures: close, kind of middle, open. And like I said, it reminds me of kind of a Todd McFarlane, or like I said, much more exaggerated comic book feel compared to the MMS style figures that we're used to, that have like the normal lenses taken from the movies. So this is, like I said, playing on that aspect of comic book. So here's the figure itself. When you remove the clam tray, you have web wings, which have come with other figures before. They have like an outline to them. Like I said, sticking with that whole comic book feel. They look like they're from the comics, but you get the web wings, which if you've had previous Spider-Man figures before, you probably maybe have gotten a pair with the Tom Holland versions. And like I said, here are the webs. And once again, very, very, like the way they're painted, much more adamant, very much more bright white versus the webbings that we've seen with other Spider-Man figures. It really stands out, going for that whole comic book theme. Definitely, it's a shame that we got the old webbing. Like, they haven't done anything with these. It's the same webbing if you've had previous Spider-Man figures, whether it's the PS5 Spideys or the MMS series Spideys. I mean, they're the same webs that you get. So that's kind of definitely a letdown. I was hoping to get some kind of upgraded webbing, or at least have Hot Toys kind of change up the webbing going forward on their figures. But the only thing that's different is there's just much more white. And outside of that, it's the same style webbings that you're used to having with other Spider-Man figures. And then definitely two accessories that are very unique to this figure. Well, one is technically, but it's this. This is the miniature Green Goblin, and I'll pull in a little closer on this so you guys can see. This thing is really cool to play with the forced perspective aspect of it. He has his own separate flight pole, so you can play with that whole idea of the perspective issue of him kind of hanging in the background. But this is such a cool little piece. Kind of hope this is a little bit of a tease that we maybe might get one in the future, a 1/6 scale from Hot Toys. But the paint on it looks really cool for what it is. Like I said, it's just a shrunken down version, holding 2 pumpkin bombs. Definitely be having fun playing with this, doing some photography with him. And then you also get the camera, which has a leather strap on it, which this is a really cool accessory. I believe the last Spider-Man figure to have a camera was the Scarlet Spider, if I'm not mistaken, when they did the Scarlet. But this is an accessory I absolutely love and will have displayed on mine. Like I said, I love playing that whole comic book feel of Spider-Man, taking photos of himself, Peter Parker for the Daily Bugle. So I love that whole play on it, and this is just feeding into it. So great looking accessory. This is definitely something not to keep in the box. I'll definitely be having this on my figure and doing a lot of posing with him. And that being said, we're going to be looking at the main piece, which is the figure itself. And this is him here. I said, pull off the protective. There he is. So I'll dress him up a little bit so you guys can see, but this is what the figure looks like. And there's I'll tell you what, man, seeing these eyes in person, I mean, you can see the reflectiveness from me in the camera. There I am right there. You can see how reflective they are. You can see me right there filming. I got my iPhone and my mic right there, so you can see me waving my hands through his eyes. They are super reflective. I mean, I would even argue if you guys have the Chrome Mando, it's definitely higher grade than that, just because the Chrome Mando technically has wear and tear on it. But there you can see me waving. There's the reflection right there in the camera. And I gotta say, in person, I'm blown away. I really am. I gotta say, I really am. These eyes it just looks awesome. Like, it really does. It really looks as delivered. It really does. I'm gonna give you my final thoughts on it when I get everything assembled, in terms of, my final thoughts on the figure and stuff like that. But just looking at this, it looks really, really nice. And I have a couple other Spider-Man figures I'll compare this to. I do have the comic book version, the classic suit, that is, and some other Spider-Man figures to compare this guy to. But like I said, initial thoughts out is just, this thing looks really cool. The colors really pop. I'm not sure if the camera's picking that up well enough, but definitely the color pops. The blue's a little bit darker. The red is definitely a little more vibrant, and the red, and you feel the raised webbing. Like, rubbing my hands across it, you can feel the raised webbing on this. Classic logo on the back. Yeah, this is really cool. This is really cool. So this is the figure here, and just kind of going over it. There's a couple things noticing. The suit itself, like I said, if you've seen before, it is definitely one piece. So there's no break here in the mask itself. However, you can kind of see when you kind of bend his head back, you can definitely see the line in which there's the sculpt of the head. But like I said, the suit sits completely seamless. So this, like I said, the suit, there looks like there's there's stitching lines right here on the sides, as you can see, stitching, and then goes around, so it's like up the arms, and then goes around the neck. It doesn't bother me that you can't change the head out. No reason for it. Absolutely not. I have no problem with that. Another thing that's interesting too is the feet itself. It looks like there's a break here at the bottom, so you can bend a little bit of the articulation, very slightly. But the feet itself even have, like, I feel like a more comic book feel to it, because they're big and pointy at the bottom there. But hands are plastic. They're molded pretty well. You can kind of see the color difference in person. It's more of a flat. The red is more vibrant on the suit. Like I said, that's nothing major. But I mean, it definitely pops. I will say the eyes themselves, it's really hard to deter away from that, in the sense, like if you swap these out, which I will swap them out with the other ones, but definitely the eyes really make you gravitate towards this figure, I will say. When this came out, people were worried about the metallic, but in person, it looks really great versus seeing it. I'm hoping that the camera does pick up the eyes really well, in the sense I could try to zoom in a little bit more, try to zoom in as tight as I can without losing anything. But the eyes just look so good. Yeah, you can see my camera right there. There I am, waving. Hey, there you are. There I am. But the eyes just look so awesome. I mean, it's really hard to display this figure without the eyes, these metallic eyes. I know I've sent, people say, oh, I'm going to swap them out. I would really, if anyone who's going to get this figure, my advice would be is to leave the metallic eyes on and like let it kind of let it cook, as some people might say. Just because out of the box, the eyes look so awesome. Like, to me, they look so awesome. It's definitely one of the defining features of this figure are the metallic eyes, trying to capture that comic book theme. And I think that, some were concerned about the photos when it came out like that, but in person, it's a completely different thing. Now, if you're used to Spider-Man figures, you're going to get the bunching in the red. So if you do any dynamic posing, this red material, it's pretty much the same that you've had if you have other Spider-Man figures, so nothing new there. The red is definitely feels a little bit different of a material in terms of its looks. It has like a little bit of a sparkle feel to it. It looks definitely a little more vibrant compared to the blue on the classic suit stands out more. And I'll do a side-by-side comparison. I'm looking at the blue classic, and the blue on the classic suit definitely pops more versus this. This is a darker blue. But I like the overall look of it. Like, this reminds me of more classic Spider-Man, the classic, the symbol on the back, everything like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to set this up with the diorama and show you guys how to build the diorama. So in case you're, anyone who's getting this figure in, what the diorama entails and the different display options. So this is the display stand that you first get with the Spider-Man figure. Standard, like I said, base that comes with. As you can see, this is a reflective, has a comic book pattern over it, so you have like the comic book paneling around there. And then the spider itself is actually a matte finish. So if the camera picks that up, you can see there's a reflectiveness here, but then here, this is a matte finish. So there's a two-tone finish going on. Nothing on the front like you would get like Spider-Man or anything like that. So that's, you'll see with the display. How it comes is this piece here, this base comes locked in, and you screw in the dynamic pole, which is meant for Spider-Man, but you also get here, so you get this pole as well, which just simply inserts into the bottom of the Green Goblin. You pop that in, and then he has his own, and this is bendable too, so you can bend this however you want. And then there's this little clip that he actually sits in, just like that. So you can see, put them like that on camera. So there's the figure, the pole that is flexible, and then you get this little clip. And what happens is there's actually a little adjustment here, no different than the normal crotch grabbers. You would loosen this up and actually put him right here on the pole. So I'm going to open this up and actually slide him down. See if I take this cap off. Yep, there he goes, like that. And then I'll tighten this up, but basically this is how you can have the Green Goblin. So you guys can see how he looks. I'm just gonna lower it down, but that's how he would look. And then you can just tighten it with the screw, however high or low you want him to go. And then the Green Goblin sits on a flight pole that, like I said, this is a little adjustable. He has his own. And then this is the crotch grabber or dynamic flight pole for Spider-Man himself. I'm not gonna be using it on mine because, like I said, these can damage the suits, but nevertheless, you'll see the posing when I get him all set up as well. So just to give you guys an idea, under the box, like I said, at the bottom, you have two plastic bags. This is the first one that has basically the three names. You have Spider-Man from the 90s cartoon show right there. And then you have the Amazing Spider-Man, which is the original comic book logo, as you guys can see there as well. Lift that up. There you go. And then you have the call out, like the comic book call out, which is, you know, the thrip there. So you have these options here to choose from. And then we're going to display them on there, and I'll show you guys how that all works. And then right here, this came in another baggie, and these are basically the cityscaped basic callouts. So you would actually insert these. This is the main plate that goes over the display, which I'll show you guys how it all works. And then you have all these little inserts, and basically you would fold these in a certain pattern that gives you that kind of pop out comic book feel, which you've seen in the promo photos. So I'm going to assemble all this and then show you guys what this looks like. All right, guys, so this is the display base, the cartoon pop-up display diorama, if you want to call it that. It's all made out of plastic. If any of you watching this video has the WB100 Wonder Woman and have assembled that base, you'll kind of get the same idea in terms of the material and then assembly. It's that hard, thick plastic. I have to admit the instructions were a little lackluster in my opinion. Could just be me, but definitely consider following the instructions to an extent. It has a breakout of all the parts here, and you have to fold each one individually to kind of get that 3D effect. You'll see what I mean when I show you the breakdown on the video. And the other thing about it is I'll show you how to do the signs as well, but I left two pieces, the easiest two pieces last so you guys get an idea. But as you can see here, basically each one of these pieces are flattened out as you saw in the video previous, and you basically have to bend them inward and kind of combine them to get this little 3D effect. And this is the main base plate. It's a little bit larger than the plastic base that comes with the figure, and there's these little flaps here that are all around the base, and you insert these up, and then you'll see where those little two holes are. You would actually take, we'll use this piece as an example. Each one of these have a flap, and the flap actually inserts inside here. I'll show you guys. Bear with me, I'm doing it kind of live because I want you guys to understand the struggle a little bit. But what you do is you kind of insert this down, and then you bend it backwards, and then that's what kind of gives it that look. These little pieces are meant to kind of make these stand upward. And now it's very loose, as you can see here, but what the intent is, the base sits right over the center and weighs it down. See how I did that? I put the base there, everything kind of conformed and flattened itself out. So that's what you're supposed to do. Now also, bear in mind in the box, you do get this. Make sure you do not throw this out. This is 3M little squares, 2, 4, you get 6 squares. Why do you get these? It's for the Spider-Man names. Right here, I'll show you guys. It's for these names here and the effect. What you do is, it's kind of a cheap way of doing it, but you'd basically 3M stick those however you want to display this. Now there's multiple display options. You could take the Amazing Spider-Man sign and put it across the front here, so the front has, that's why there's no name here printed, because you can use one of the Spider-Man logos, and what you do is you take a piece of 3M double-sided, tear off a square, you put it there, and you put the sign on it, and you stick it to it. So, and there's two ways to display. There's that, and then you see the flight pole, you also get this piece here, this little square, and this is another alternate way of displaying the name. So this little piece can go on two ways. As you can see here, I slid it on this as kind of a cap. So you remove the cap from the flight pole, which is this little guy here, and this you could put on two ways. I'll show you the instructions. I opted for this. You put this on here, and this is a flat piece, and then you put a piece of 3M here, and you display the sign across the top, or you could slide it on with this little circle here and put the cap on it and adjust it. I'll show you guys what that means in the instructions. That might completely sound confusing, but you'll see right here in the instructions, shows you how to do the Goblin, but right here you have two different modes. You have A and B. I opted for B is what you saw. The little pole here, you can insert it two ways. You can insert it down the pole and put the sign middle way, or if you want to use it as a kind of a cap, that's what I did. Mine's displayed in the B route where it's going to hang over, because I'm not going to display my figure with the flight pole. I'm going to have them on the base. So there's the sign there. So you'll see what this means, but you know, it's worthy on this figure. Take your time. Look at the instructions, because it gives you different posing options. There's no one way to pose this. As you can see here, the instructions are telling you the 3M, and there's the Amazing Spider-Man sign on top, or you can display one on the bottom as well. So you can do two different, or you can do both, you know, designs. You can do one of the logos, and then you can do the action call out. So it really gives you options to display this however you want. So my advice is definitely actually look at the instructions for this one. And we'll break this all out so you guys can see what this looks like in the finished product. So before I get into my final recap thoughts on the overall figure, I want to do a couple things. Here you could see a little bit of a comparison I did. I swapped out one of his eyes for the solid white versus the metallic to kind of try to give you an idea of what that looks like. I'll kind of zoom in a little bit more on it and up the light there for you so you guys can see the difference between, like I said, you have the metallic versus the solid. I also turn around and put on a web shooter so you can actually see right here you have the web shooter on one of his arms versus the one holding the camera. It does look like that one hand that I have is the one that's meant for the camera. I will say putting the web shooters on the figure over the suit, it does create a little bit of friction there because, you know, it makes it kind of tight. So you just have to be careful. You don't want to damage the suit when sliding the web shooters on. You want to make sure you also slide them on high enough so the peg is exposed that you can actually lock the hand, you know, the appropriate hand that you want to use in. I did notice that happened once or twice when I slid the web shooter on. I thought I had it on, you know, on snug enough, and then when I went to put the hand on, I felt like the peg locked in, but then the hand popped right out. It's because I had to slide the web shooter on a little more snug and up his wrist. So it gives you an idea. And in terms of comparison, we're going to put the comic book version next to him so you guys have an idea of what these look like. So I'm going to slide him over. I'll zoom out so you guys can see. And then this is the comic book version of Spider-Man. And then we're also going to include, we're going to give you my favorite, the advanced. Why not? May not fit, but I know the comparison people are going to want to make for the most part are going to be these two suits here. And like I said, it's hard to pick up on camera. I might do an outdoor test on it later, but I can say in person, the classic suit, which is in the center, the blue pops. The blue definitely pops, and so does the red. It's a different color red because the classic suit, it's all one kind of like the vinyl material. The red obviously looks a lot different on that versus the comic book version here, where the red is actually more of a cloth material, similar to the Tobey Maguire suits. Even the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit was a little bit different. So it's a different type of material, so the color is going to take differently. Honestly, it's going to be more up to a personal preference. I know when this figure came out, a lot of collectors instantly, still said that the classic suit here in the center was their favorite interpretation. For me, they're all just interpretations. Spider-Man overall as a character has been depicted in many different forms, in comic book form, cartoon form. So, who's to say what's the idea, the perfect version of Spider-Man's suit? To me, these are just interpretations. These are all just variations, and each one of them has their pros and their cons, in my opinion. For me, I love them all. I absolutely love this version, and I do love the classic suit as well. When I think classic suit, even this isn't the classic suit to me. Like, when I'm thinking classic, I'm thinking, John Romita, how he drew Spider-Man originally. But then you can move into, John Romita Jr., Todd McFarlane. I mean, the list goes on and on of all the artists who have depicted their Alex Ross, who've all depicted their own version of Spider-Man. So this is just one version of multiples that have been made by Hot Toys. And I think Hot Toys, if they wanted to, they could keep making Spider-Man figures and call them comic book versions because they all have a different style to them. So this is just a little bit of a comparison so you guys can see, but I think either or, they both have their own, pros and cons, so to speak. So I'm going to wrap up my final thoughts and give you guys my final review of the entire figure. Hey everyone, so this is where I kind of give you my final overview of the figure in terms of, why did I even get it in the first place? And a lot of people, like I said, when they saw this figure, they kind of ragged on it a lot, kind of bashing it. The negativity came out right away. This figure encompasses the reason why I collect Hot Toys. Well, why do I do that? It's because this brings me back to my childhood when I watched the 90s cartoon show and I read the comics. This figure embodies that. When I had those little 3.75-inch figures and the Kenner figures and things like that when I was growing up that my grandmother bought me. I owned all the figures from this show. So collecting Hot Toys, I think we all do it for our own personal reasons, obviously. But for me, I absolutely love it when they make characters that embody my childhood. RoboCop, 89 Batman, Back to the Future, things like that. So when this figure came out, is it perfect? No, of course not. You could see where Hot Toys cut corners to get this figure out in a quick turnaround. It was announced and released within a month or less. Some of the things I don't like about it, obviously the display base is, I'm going to display this the way that you see it because, going to get my money's worth and display the whole thing. I do that with every exclusive, the Wonder Woman, I display everything. So this is how it's going to get displayed. I don't particularly like the display options using the 3M. In this case, I'm not going to be displaying it with the Amazing Spider-Man or the call to action, if you want to call it that. I'm displaying it this way because this is what this is my favorite version, is the 90s cartoon show. I may swap it out, but it's not easy because, like I said, it's 3M sticky, it's a 3M tack. So when you peel it off, you got to make sure, it doesn't damage anything. So that's a little bit of a cheap corner cut. The display base, I hope that my video helped you. If you're watching this, try to understand how to assemble it. This is a pain in the ass, I felt it was. It took the most time to figure it all out. I love the fun of it. It's fun. And I do think sometimes when these releases come out, we're so quick to over scrutinize, analyze everything, that it's like, perfection is not obtainable, okay? And I know people are saying everything about this figure, good, bad, or different. This is fun, okay? My energy level playing with this thing, I absolutely love this, posing with it. I was even watching some reviews, TK421 Collectibles, MRC Collections. They got their reviews out before me, so I was able to watch theirs to kind of see what was going on with the figure. And I absolutely loved the energy that those reviews had. I'll link those in the description below. I just love the energy, the fun. That's what this was about. This was fun. Playing with this, I'm gonna have so much fun taking photos with this, with the camera and posing it up, having it, figuring out where it's gonna go on my display shelf. Absolutely fun. And this embodies my childhood right here. This is my childhood summed up, or a version of it. It may not be for you, that's perfectly fine, but for me, this was my childhood. I grew up on this TV show, I grew up on the comics and everything like that. So when I saw this from day one, I was like, I had to have it, and I was excited, and I can tell you that my excitement level was met, okay? Because of what this figure symbolizes for me. Once again, it's grown up with all those figures that we had. And I do think as collectors, we try to capture some of that, especially when Hot Toys, when they put out figures like this, and you get an opportunity to get something that you used to play with as a kid, when you were 6, 7, 8 years old, and then, we're collecting these high-end collectibles that are, they're not cheap. And for them to make something like that, that really kind of, captures your childhood and kind of brings you back with those memories, there's no price tag for that. And so that's why I love this figure. So this is going to be a very skewed review. I absolutely love this thing. Yes, like I said, it has some, you can see corners cut of how they got the figure out so fast. But like I said, those who are going to get it are going to get it, and those who are going to pass, that's perfectly fine. I just hope they dive into more of the comic book origins, figures. I hope this little Green Goblin here is kind of a sampling of something that we might get in the future from them, and they explore, doing more comic book series figures. But like I said, I hope that, if you enjoyed this unboxing experience, drop a like on this video. Please consider subscribing to the channel if this is in fact your first time, and hit that little bell notification for future unboxings, videos, and sometimes live streams. And more importantly, drop a comment on this video. Let me know your thoughts if you were picking this up or you're passing. It's perfectly fine as well. Love to engage with everybody that comments on the channel, so I appreciate it. But until then, this is Mr. Mom Collectibles, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.